Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Handhelds. I'm Joey, and today we're going to talk all about game streaming. Honestly, I just wanted a reason to show off the white Odin 2 portal that I got, because it is so much better than the black one. I was so excited when I got this, and it looks awesome. So in this video, we're going to be focusing on the white Odin 2 portal, because it is great, and it is awesome. And on the back of it, it doesn't have any of that fingerprint smudging thing either. So it's definitely the better choice, I think, over the other colors, at least to me. I'm still testing out the new bigger stick caps. They're a little bit slippery to my thumbs, but I actually like how big they are. So we'll see. I'm going to play with them a little bit more. I only just got this last night. I am not ready for a final thoughts on the stick caps, but we'll talk about that at some point in the future. Okay, and so I am making this video once again. I did this video a year and a little bit ago, and at that time was actually after the release of the Odin 2. We are now here with the Odin 2 portal, and I'm doing the exact same thing. But I cannot believe how good game streaming has gotten. And I just mean PC game streaming with Artemis and Apollo, which is Moonlight and Sunshine, not even talking about PX Play for PS5 remote streaming, or XP Play for Xbox remote streaming, or even GeForce Now, which has gotten great as well. There are so many options now for game streaming, and I can stream any game that I want to my Odin 2 portal at maxed out resolutions, max frame rate to 120 Hz or 120 FPS, and it all looks fantastic on the portal's OLED screen. It's funny looking back at how good I thought streaming was just a year ago, and to see now how much better it's gotten. It's awesome progress, and it just makes things so much better. I've been a huge advocate for streaming for years now, and it simply has just never been this good. Open Artemis or Moonlight, wake on LAN, boot right into my front end of choice that is on my PC, which is Play Night, boot up a game, and off I go. I am playing most any game that I want at maxed out graphics, 120 Hz refresh rate, and thanks to the two devices that I use, the only limit is how good my network is, and how good my PC is. I did this video a few weeks ago, how to set up Artemis and Apollo and stream your games, and it's a game changer. It's a massive difference compared to just a year ago for me, and all of it is thanks to Apollo for just how easily it sets up virtual displays for any device that you stream to, and it no longer requires a bunch of other things like dummy HDMIs and scripts to change your monitor refresh rate and resolution and all that sort of thing. It is all automatic now, and they went even further by including new settings to make streaming even faster. For example, Artemis has a setting on Android called Warp Drive. Before Warp Drive, my decoding latency was around 10 ms on average. And that's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's hard to really feel the difference in between these. However, it is now halved at 5 ms or lower, and this is on my Odin 2 portal. And while Warp Drive doesn't work on every single device, it sure made a difference on the portal. I also somehow discovered a menu that I didn't know existed by swiping up and pushing the back button on the portal. Turns out that you can toggle the performance overlay, open the keyboard, and do all sorts of things through the menu while you're in actual Artemis, and that's super useful. I do wish that at some point we can get some configurable hotkeys for these sorts of things, but I'll make do with this for now. Now, this might be blasphemy, but I've actually switched over a lot of my retro gaming to the Odin 2 portal as well. Streaming. This means I'm actually streaming Nintendo GameCube, I'm streaming PlayStation 2, and even Nintendo Switch. All three of those are systems that the Odin 2 portal can easily play on its device. But I've been streaming it for a lot of different reasons, because it does it better. Even streaming, it's still better than it is locally on the device. And that to me is just crazy, especially when there's no discernible difference in latency or quality. So I'm going to say that again, let that sink in for a second. I am streaming systems that this device can play locally because I find it's a better experience streaming it than playing it on the device itself. That doesn't mean it's bad on the Odin 2 portal. By far, it is absolutely not bad on the Odin 2 portal. It just means that there are some other benefits when you stream it instead of locally on an Android device. GameCube is the big one to me. There is no retro achievements on Android for GameCube, so being able to stream it and earn retro achievements is a massive benefit for my personal gaming, and I have no real downsides doing that. Now obviously, the big downside is that if I left my house and went somewhere where there was no internet, then, thanks to SyncThing, I could just keep playing natively instead of streaming, of course. Although Apollo and Artemis absolutely can be used outside of your home network. So if I was out and about and there was internet with good Wi-Fi, then I could just continue streaming from my house. Results would vary quite a bit depending on the internet connection and all that sort of thing, and probably would not be a good time in a lot of cases, but the option is there. But of course, this opens up even further because I now have access to PlayStation 3 or real working Wii U emulation, Xbox emulation, Xbox 360 emulation, and all of the games and systems that maybe Android just doesn't have access to. And of course, I'm talking about all of the mods, scripts, patches, and everything that Windows and we'll say Linux have access to for modifying games to be better that you just can't do on Android. I'm not even talking about just straight emulation in this case, but I'm sure you can think of a ton of games that have Windows mods that don't exist on Android. I don't know how to say this. Is it Moguri mod for Final Fantasy IX to have the best Final Fantasy IX experience? You can only get that on Windows. So yeah, stream it to your Android device and enjoy the best of both worlds. Now, I've been a big fan of my Asus ROG Ally X. It is my current favorite x86 handheld. And obviously the ROG Ally X has all of these systems and it can play them natively. But my experience has been that streaming has just been better than native in a lot of these cases. For the Ally X, or streaming to any handheld that actually can play PC games, it is a massive difference in quality when going streaming over native, especially on the X. Look at some of the newer games that have come out in the last year or so. Final Fantasy XVI, for example, does not run at all great on x86 handhelds. The best you can aim for is 40 FPS, and you're trying to lock that while using lowered resolutions, lowered graphics, and all that sort of thing. Now, you can turn to things like lossless scaling, which is absolutely awesome, and you can 2x or 3x or 4x your frames with frame generation, and that can be hit or miss in a lot of scenarios, and adding input delay and all that sort of thing. The newest version of lossless scaling actually is quite great though. You should try it if you have a Windows handheld. But if you have a gaming PC just sitting there that can play all of these games maxed out at 1080p, why wouldn't you put that to use? Obviously, there's a lot more examples than Final Fantasy XVI because PC ports aren't suddenly getting better, and they sure aren't getting more optimized for x86 handhelds. So it becomes a bit of an unfair comparison when you run that same game that was struggling at 40 FPS with low settings, and suddenly you're running it at 120 FPS with high everything. Another good example that I personally like to use is Alan Wake 2. I played Alan Wake 1 for the first time last year, and I loved it, and instantly was like, I want to play the second. The problem is, I played 1 on the Ally, and when I tried 2 on the Ally, it was basically a slideshow. Not a great experience at all. Contrast that with how my PC can play it and stream it to my Ally, and suddenly I'm left wondering, what am I doing with my life in a good way? Now, obviously, this requires a good PC, or at least a better PC than the handhelds that exist out there already, and also a good network. So those are two things that you're going to need for any of this to be possible. So it's not going to resonate with every single person out there. But anecdotally, I've seen more and more people convert to streaming, especially nowadays, just because of how much better it is. And with the current state of just handhelds and battery life and power and all of that, that it's an interesting way to look at video games going forward. Honestly, even a service like GeForce Now is awesome if you don't have a great PC and you still want to experience games at higher resolutions and higher frame rates. I've had a lot of good success with GeForce Now, and my only negative to that service is that it's a bit expensive and there's a limited amount of games, but otherwise it is fantastic for image quality and input delay. The best of the remote streaming services out there by far. I love my Ally X, but I would be lying if I said that Artemis and Apollo and my recent rediscovery of streaming as a daily use case thing didn't shake up how I want to play games going forward. The funny thing is, the X actually would be the best device for streaming in my house, and that's thanks to the very low decoding times that it has with Windows. And so the latency, the delay, and everything would be the best experience on the X. Now, I don't think a lot of people are going to go out and spend $800 just to stream games from a gaming PC that they already have, but hey, it is the best option, it's just not the cheapest. However, for me, the Odin 2 Portal has taken over in my house as the device of choice. and it's difficult to give up an OLED panel that is still 120Hz, still has relatively low decoding times and latency, and it also helps that the Portal has insane battery life, and it is lighter while having great controls for modern games. All at $330 to start with, which is just crazy. In my review, I called the Portal a Logitech G Cloud 2, and it absolutely is. I don't know what Logitech is waiting for to compete on this front, but they definitely need to look at the Portal and take some inspiration from that for their next device. Now, personally, I would love to see a Windows device that somehow matches all of what the Portal can do, but I just doubt it can happen. This year, we are going to see a lot of OLED 120Hz Windows handhelds from Lenovo, Zotac, and I'm betting even Asus will show up at some point. But the one thing that you can count on is they're all going to be expensive, they're going to be heavy, and they won't have the battery life to compete with an Android handheld. Long story short, I think streaming is once again the way to go going forward. For me, I'm actually looking at upgrading my PC quite a bit so I can get better 1080p gaming. That looks like a 9800 X3D from AMD. Probably gonna look at the 5080. I don't know, it's a lot of money. We'll see. But the point is, it's super exciting to be able to stream games easily at high frame rates, high resolutions and everything, and not have any real downsides. It's awesome. Being a reviewer in this niche, I get access to a ton of different devices. As you can see behind me, of course, I bought the Odin 2 Portal and I had a review unit. I get access to all this, so I can run through devices and go through them and pick and choose what I like and what I want. Imagine my surprise when at the end of the day, my choice of device is just something that I can stream to in the best possible way and just use my gaming PC for all of it. That says a lot, I think, about the current state of streaming. I want to say that it would save you money, but considering I'm going down a rabbit hole of adding a 9800 X3D, Wi-Fi 7 access points, more RAM, storage, all of this sort of thing, I don't think I can say it saves you money, but maybe in some people's cases it can, because all you have to do is just stream. That's going to be it for this one. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about handhelds and game streaming. Support me on Patreon if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.